What perception do you give to yourself at that point? That you would rather have said to somebody, no, don't do it. You're right. What if you do fail? What if it doesn't work? Or you'd rather look back and say, at least I know I tried and I gave it everything I had. And then that's the question I always ask the clients. It's like, do you really feel you're giving this everything? Or do you feel you're watering down yourself, or you're half bothered to actually put the amount of effort in that this needs and this requires?
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Systems with Laura, the podcast where clarity meets action. I'm your host, Laura Plantak, founder, strategist, and no-code systems nerd, and I'm here on a mission to help service-based entrepreneurs stop reinventing the wheel and start scaling with ease. This episode of Systems with Laura is brought to you by Proprium, business workflow and automation agency. If you're building a service-based business and you're overwhelmed by operations, automations, or choosing the right tools, this is exactly what Proprium helps with. Proprium builds systems that help you save time, reduce repetitive work, and scale without chaos. Learn more at proprium.agency. And today I have a special guest. I'm thrilled to welcome Nadine, a business coach who's helped hundreds of online service providers and coaches achieve consistent 5-figure months while building businesses that offer true freedom. Nadine specializes in developing and creating sold out signature offers and specializes in creating sales directly through your content strategy. So whether you're just starting out or looking to scale your existing coaching business, I think this conversation is going to be packed with actionable systems and strategies that you can implement right away. So if you're ready to systemize your success, just dive in with us. And I'm here to welcome Nadine. Thank you for coming to my podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I'm really happy and excited about this conversation because I've seen a little bit of your work, I would say deeper on Instagram and on all the places that you are offering your coaching. But what I loved and what I really want to read is one of the client testimonials that you have. And basically, somebody said that you're an absolute expert in what you do. You will not find anyone better to help take your business to the next level. I can't thank you enough for the support over the last 6 months and how you have helped me transform my business. And I think that those testimonials kind of show the best way how what you're doing impacts people and how content strategy basically, ties into sales. And I think a lot of us are kind of, including me, a little bit lost in how to put out our message, in the best way. So I just want to start our interview with basically what kind of led you to this? How did you become this person that enables entrepreneurs to have this success? And how did you stumble upon becoming a coach? Tell us about yourself.
Well, firstly, that testimonial is so lovely. It's actually reminds me that what I do is so impactful, like long terms. But I think when I started, I actually didn't. I was unlike a lot of people in the online space. I actually started my business while I still loved the career that I had. I had an 11-year career that was psychology based, basically a version of coaching, but for people, where I would look at their lives and I would look at the different parts that were moving and help them to get to their goals and help them to overcome really big mindset blocks that were stopping them from getting there, and putting tangible, practical ways of doing it. And I loved it, but I thought to myself, is this going to be it for the rest of my life? Is this actually everything that I have that I can move forward with? And at the time, I had been in my career since I was around 20, I'd say 17 is when I actually started. And I started my business when I was 28. And I was like, okay, you've been doing this for free and you've been doing it as a career and a paid career for such a long time. There has to be a different way, because the other side of me that I really love, that I really value in life, is freedom. And from the age of 21, I kept taking off every 2 years, 21, 24, 26, 28. I kept taking off with my businesses, and going traveling. But the problem was that I had to keep rebuilding my life when I came back. So I had this really bad habit of leaving work, saving up money for 2 years, going traveling, coming back broke, having to rebuild my life again. And to be honest with you, I never worried or suffered in that regard. I always knew I was going to get another job because I was like good at what I did. But the problem was that I was getting older, and as I was getting older, I was like, you can't just keep coming back to nothing. You have to find a way that you can love your job and still have a consistent income. And then I looked into VA coaching, VA services, and I did an online course. Basically, automatically became a social media manager because I have the background in like the psychology based understanding of how people think, and I combined it with my love of social media. And after 2 weeks, I had my first client directly through my content strategy. In 6 weeks, I was fully booked. And I'd say by month 3 of posting consistently, I started to get approached by people who were saying, Nadine, I don't really want you to do it for me, but can you teach me how to do it? I really want to learn about content strategy. I really want to learn how to optimize my profile for sales and become that industry leader that people think of when they're ready to invest. So it started from there. And then I started offering coaching. And all of a sudden, I was like, how did I not know that I was going to do this from the beginning? Because I love the empowerment piece, which would have came from before. And then I combined it. And yeah, and I've been coaching ever since. So now it's been 4 years, 4 years since February, which is crazy.
So first of all, congratulations on the 4 years. That's a huge milestone. How does that
Thank you so
feel?
much.
What did change in those 4 years versus when you just started?
Yeah, crazy everything. Because absolutely everything. Because when I started the business, I think just like everybody else, you're kind of just feeling, I call it your get your shit together
Yeah.
time, when you're like figuring out the type of clients you want to work with. You're like refining your own skills, getting better at what you're like, and getting the experience and what you're good at, trying to just like overcome all those doubts of, is this actually going to work? Am I going to end up back in my 9 to 5, or am I ever going to actually leave my 9 to 5 to go to, in this full time? So in the beginning, I was going through my get your shit together phase where I was just trialing, testing. But what I didn't realize was that the success was going to come quite fast, and things started to snowball really fast because my content was doing the selling for me. And I'm a big believer in your content doing 90% of the selling of everything for you. So by the time I was starting to get inquiries and people were coming to me, it felt started to feel like my business was almost running me rather than I was running it. So around 2 years, about a year and a half in, I'd say, coming to the 2 year mark, I had a full wait list of clients. I had a full roster. Everything was perfect. I was 5K months from month 7 in my business. And I had taken off to go to South America. And I remember being in a hotel room in Colombia, sweating 7 a.m. in the morning because of the time differences with Ireland and my clients, and thinking, this can't be it. This cannot be the dream business that I imagined. Like, money was there, clients were coming in, inquiries were strong, the business had built. But I remember thinking, this cannot be it. This can't be the version of my future where in theory I had the life that I wanted. I had the freedom, I could take off, had the clients, but there was not enough money in the world that was going to get me to continue with the business the way it was. So I actually took a step back, burned it down. I said, nope, I value my experience in South America for the next 8 months over doing this, over the money it's going to give me. I had saved up. I said, I'm going to just live off that. So I let all my contracts finish and I stepped back and I really, really evaluated what I want, what a successful business looked like to me. Because yes, it was money, yes, it was clients, but not at the expense of my life. So it would have been when I came back in 2020, the end of 2022, and I rebuilt it after 4 months. And I stripped away any offers that felt like they were draining the life out of me. I reevaluated the type of client I wanted to work with, how I was positioning myself in the online space, and what I wanted to become known for, and what people were going to start approaching me for. And yeah, I launched premium one-to-one offers, scalable group programs, passive offers, things that people could do in their own time. And I really rebuilt my business around my life rather than trying to constantly catch up with the business and fit my life around the business. I had actually reestablished how to build a business successfully around myself and what that meant for me. And within 12 months, I had scaled to my first 6 figure month
That's
of
amazing.
doing that.
That's amazing. And I love how you are describing that, because I feel that a lot of entrepreneurs think that, when they start their business, they're trying to, especially if they come from a background where they were previously employees, they're trying to kind of copy that environment into a startup a little bit. And that burns
Mm-hmm.
you out. And when you're an employee, you are also working hard, but when you have your own business, you have to, put all those resources to exist. There's no brand book unless you make it. There's no corporate visual identity. There's no coffee machine in the office. You have to order it if you want to have an office and you want to have a
Yeah.
coffee machine, right? So I think that after that blissful few first weeks when they, dip their toes into entrepreneurship, it becomes a little bit, it's scary. What am I doing? Why am I doing this to myself? Should I go back to this security that I had in a way? And I think that people are afraid to do exactly what you said. Like, let's burn it all down and let's start from scratch. And I definitely relate to that because I did that not only once, I did it a few times. So I'm wondering, what was your moment where you said, okay, I have to do that? Because most people quit on that point, they don't reinvent it. How did you decide to reinvent it?
Yeah, I actually remember really clearly when I came back from South America, I said to my friends and my family, like, I'm done. I'm done with this. I can't take the pressure. I can't take like constantly being switched on. I can't take this. This can't be it forever. And then I remember them saying to me, Nadine, but you're so good at it. And it really makes you happy. Like when it's working, it's making you happy. And you've invested so much time, so much money in. You've really put your heart and soul into this business. Do you really think it's the business that you don't want, or it's how you're running the business is what doesn't suit your lifestyle and doesn't suit who you want to become? And when I really sat down with it, and I really did weigh it up, because like I said, I didn't come from a business or from a background career that I hated. I wasn't one of those people that was in a 9 to 5 grind. I loved my career. So I did weigh it up, and it was a really strong possibility of just going back to my usual job and saying, well, that was a nice try. But then I thought about the deeper reasons why I had created my business. And although it was for freedom to travel, it was also not having to live under somebody's rules. Like I am not a morning person, and I could not imagine having to go in for a 7 a.m. shift again with a 7 a.m. start and sitting in that traffic and being under somebody else's mercy of my time and my energy, or having to ask, can I have that time off, or banking and bank holidays again. And then on a deeper level, again, it was, again, I was getting older and I wanted more financial security for my future, to be able to take care of myself, to be able to take care of my mom, to be able to have the nicer things in life without worrying that I couldn't afford them, because my 9 to 5 was only going to pay me a certain amount of salary every single month. And there was no way for me to get more than what I was getting in my life. And I felt like the more I thought about the future I wanted to create for myself, the deeper I felt disconnected from that career, even though I loved it. And it became a non option. There was no other option, just only to make it succeed. And when I deep dived into my feelings around the actual business, it was like, I love this business. I give it everything I have. And the reason for that is because I'm so passionate about supporting the people that I do through my coaching. But I have to look after myself first. So what would I do with myself first? What would I advise myself if I was my own client? Would I say burn it all down and walk away? Or would I say fix the things that are not working? The business itself is what you really want, but how you're running it doesn't work right now. So how can we actually look at the options to move it? And then I went all in and I invested again. I remember it was my last €600 in my bank account. And I invested in another coach who was much further ahead than me. And I was like, okay, I need guidance on how to do this the right way, because the previous ways had got me so far, but it wasn't the furthest I wanted to go. It wasn't running the way I needed to. So getting that investment and the guidance and direction was like the pinnacle moment that actually helped me to break through any blockages that I thought that could never be me, or that's the kind of business I would love to run, but I could never do that. But realizing it was actually capable, I was capable of having that with the right direction to get me myself there, was game changing.
I love that. And what I love the most about what you said was the quote from your friend. And I even wrote it down. I think she said, do you really think it's the business or how you run it? So, how did that feel? What came to your mind with that question? That's a really revealing question, basically. That's very powerful. So, what happened?
Yeah, so much. I think it was a case of reflection in that moment, because when you're caught up in the moment of your business and things are on top of you and you feel hyper pressure and things are just not working as you imagine them, you're like, it's the business. I hate this. Oh my God, this is not working. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe the idea that I had of the business is one thing, but what I actually need to do is, it was a nice experience. It was a nice hobby, but I'm not cut out for this. when actually, when you step back, you are totally qualified, you have the skills, you're so helpful, you are able to really make an impact and a change in your clients' lives and how you support whoever you support in your business. For me, it was my clients. But I think recognizing, okay, everything else in the background, like you could be the best person, I could be the best coach in the world, but if I didn't feel I had a business that could support me with that in terms of offers, systems, structuring the business, then it didn't matter how good I was going to get back to that moment of overwhelm and feeling like I wasn't cut out for it. So I had to fix it from the inside out first.
Makes full sense. And you said the crucial word, systems. So I'm wondering, from that point in time to right now, 4 years in, how did your systems evolve? What was a system when you started for you? And what is a system or systems that you're using currently that you would kind of detect if you made a map of your business in a way?
Well, there's so many, I don't know where to start. I think if I was to start from the beginning, it was restructuring my offers themselves. I had to come up with a systematic way to be able to create a business that worked around me, not just worked to suffice for clients. Before, I used to send a Calendly link, for example, and I'd be like, no problem, all days, all hours available every day of the week, whatever you need. I'd even open some slots on the weekend at the beginning when I thought maybe they can't fit me in around their work, so we'll do it on days you're not working. And I very much started to burn because I could feel my boundaries are very off. So I started with restructuring and creating a system around what I now call the in on off method that I teach clients, which is around restructuring literally how your week looks, rolling your business on a 7-day rota, because we didn't create a 9 to 5 to have an online 9 to 5. We didn't leave it. So your business should actually run around a 7-day roster, but knowing specifically when you're doing in work, aka when you're actually working, doing any type of client work, anything around client reviews or any client support that you need to do, client calls, other times and days when you are doing business on days, anything that moves your business forward, anything that makes sure that you get to work that doesn't just support your clients but supports you. So that would be around tasks that you need to develop, or if there's any work in terms of your branding, or you need to sit down and write your content, or you need to record things, they don't get overlapped. They don't, like, your priority is not your clients on those days, and you create strict boundaries. But just like when you know when you're working that you're on, you also need to know when you're working off. So having planned days off where you're not doing any work is just as important, because I feel like, and I have these conversations all the time with clients when we're structuring their businesses, it's around knowing just as importantly when you're off, so that when you see a 4 hour gap in your calendar, when that's meant to be the day that you have a client call, that you don't say, oh, I'll skip those client reviews and I'll go for that coffee that my friend wants because I have clear space, so I may as well just do it. It's having those boundaries with yourself, knowing, actually, no, that's my day for, these are actually my hours for getting client work done. So I'll tell my friend we'll go for that coffee on Thursday at 2 when I don't have anything on, when nothing's actually arranged. That's my day off. Or that afternoon is usually when I do no client work or no work on the business. That's when I'll rearrange it. So it started with actually creating those day-to-day boundaries in terms of structure. And then the second thing was looking at automations. So it was all about making sure where I was doing manual work that didn't actually require me. And yes, I had that mentality at the beginning of, I don't want to spend money. Sure, it only takes me a couple of minutes to do it. Sending that email of the welcome with the contracts updated or the onboarding forms, it only takes me a couple of minutes. But those couple of minutes were adding up, and I would make mistakes. I would send the wrong contracts. I was sending the wrong invoices. They were sending on the wrong days. And all of this was adding more pressure to the back of my mind, because even when I would send emails, I'd be like, oh my God, I would be triple checking the emails to make sure all of these things were happening. And on the flip side of that, if I wanted to create a premium business where I increase my prices, I could say and stand over that I would say I provide a premium service. That needed to start from the beginning, not just when they were working directly with me as a coach, but I wanted them to get that premium feel for my business from the minute that they said yes. So the minute somebody now sends me a yes, so for example in the DMs, I send them one link and they can onboard themselves to the contract. It leads them to a portal where they get their own updated contract. They can sign automatically. They can go through the onboarding forms. They can book themselves in. They can sign any documents that I need. And I could be, I sometimes I'm in the air, I'm flying, and I land to them having everything completed and onboarding themselves. And could I have done that in the moment? Yes. But one, they got a premium feel from the moment they got inside. And two, it was something else that didn't require me, because always feel in business, everything is constantly turning. As soon as you tick off one to-do list, you've got another one to do. But these ways that you can support yourself creates a whole new version of you in your business, because you no longer have to put that time and energy into manual tasks that you no longer have to have. So I think that they were the main things on, like, making sure that anything onboarding and team management or client management wise was streamlined to a point where I wasn't stressing of, oh my God, when did that client's contract start? When does it end? When do I need to have that conversation of, do they want to continue or not? I got a whole board system set up, because I can work with up to 25 clients at any one time. So trying to manage contracts like that, for example, would have been impossible. It would have been impossible at that point, when I actually started to really grow and scale it to having more than up to 5 clients that were my baby clients. When it started to go to like 20 and 25 clients, those added stressors I didn't realize. But without those systems in place, I was trying to manage all of this in my head. I was trying to manage all of tracking dates and tracking clients in the back of my mind, without actually realizing how much pressure that was adding to me subconsciously when running the business. So even though I had all the added pressure of clients and trying to provide a really good service, trying to run the back end of my business just from remembering in the back of my brain was causing such strain.
I think that the mental load that creates on a person is insane. And I love the way that you described it, because that's the first thing that people need to understand when they are trying to systemize. But I think in your case, basically the offer that you nailed down as your core led to that. You can't have an automated onboarding if you don't know what's going to go in the contract. What are you actually selling? What's actually happening? There's no message across social media unless you know what you're selling. If today's episode makes you realize your tools are not supporting your business, Proprium builds systems in tools like Airtable, SmartSuite, ClickUp, HubSpot, Make, Zapier, and many more. Proprium's team maps your processes, builds your workflows, automates your tasks, and trains your team. If you want systems done properly, visit proprium.agency. How did you decide, since you have so many skills and you could do so many different career paths, basically, especially even as an entrepreneur, you could offer 20, 50 services. How did you decide this is it and I'm going to put it into signature programs, and this is what, they're going to be called, this is how we're going to do it? Can you tell us a little bit about that? That's a big decision to make, and that led you to everything else.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I actually started it when I first started. I started as a social media manager, like I said. Then it turned into social media. Then it turned into social media coaching. Then it moved into Instagram coaching. Then I went into marketing coaching. And then I remember I was actually on a call with somebody, and they were like, why do you just call yourself a marketing coach when actually you help me with all of my business? You help me with the structuring of the business. You help me with this. Then I realized I actually support people a lot with their sales, because the full package is building a business, understanding your signature offers, the core offers you're known for, your ideal client, your niche clarity, what makes you stand out as a brand. Then it moves into connecting your content to that. So how are you communicating directly to your ideal client through your content strategy to make sure that the minute they come to your page, they know that you're for them? And then the final part is, once the marketing is done and you get the inquiries, how do you actually close it? How do you actually make a sale of the person that's now inquiring? Because it doesn't just, they're not just in because they inquire. You actually have to be able to use your sales skills to actually close that sale by qualifying and pre-qualifying that client to be right for your offer, and then explaining to them why they're the right fit for your offer if you deem them to be. So when I was progressing and evolving as a business owner, it actually quite happened naturally. It was that when I was working on one area of their business, say it was their marketing or their content strategy, I would realize that they had a blind spot in terms of, when I'd ask them about their offer, they didn't know how to communicate with me. So it was like, okay, well, does that offer even serve you, or is it an offer problem, or is it an offer communication problem? And oftentimes it was actually they had thrown together an offer with a random startup business coach that they had started with or by themselves. that they had compared other people online. And it started there, where they had just thrown together what they saw other people do, but they didn't have any actual understanding of how to create an offer, what goes into it, what needs to, how to price it using a pricing strategy. And then when I would ask them more about their brand and how they want to be perceived, they didn't understand that. They thought their branding was just the visuals and having nice Canva slides and templates for it and having consistent colors. But then it was about your brand voice and what do you stand for and how do you want to be perceived. And if you want to be a leader in the industry, how do you perceive yourself to be that leader? How do you want to be perceived? So it got deeper and deeper with clients, and the sessions became bigger. And initially, I used to run things. It started off with like hour sessions, then three week intensives, then it was a month, then it went into 3 months. Like my minimum offer now is 4 months. You can only work with me for 4 months minimum at the moment, and it can go from 4 months to 6 months. A majority of my clients work with me for 8 months to 2 years because of the fact that we go deep diving into their business. So when I was in sessions, it naturally evolved that there was areas that I could support clients with that I thought in my head, oh no, I'll just do marketing. But then it would light me up to be able, the marketing wouldn't work. There was a disconnect if they hadn't got the other foundational pieces ready or their sales skills were lowered. So it just became um, a natural progression to move into supporting them with the three core areas of their business initially, which is where the foundations of fully booked um, program that I have for first year service providers came from. I was like, okay, these three core pieces is what majority of people are missing. Some people have really strong marketing skills, but when they get onto sales calls, they don't know how to communicate their offer well. They get nervous, they go into themselves. Or the other side, when they get people on calls, they're really good at getting them to say yes, but it was attracting the inquiries. And then it always came back to the foundational levels for both. They usually were missing the clarity piece on what their offer was about, how to communicate certain aspects of their offer, not chopping and changing to create bespoke, but actually having core offers that you became known for, because then them offers started to sell themselves based on reputation and what your branding was about. So it came from a natural evolution of seeing that one area wasn't going to fix it. It was going to have to be the three core areas to have a successful online business from the very first year and beyond.
I think that shows that only by method of testing, trying,
Mm-hmm.
repeating, seeing how things work out, you're actually building a business. And people seem to expect from themselves a little bit when they start. From what I've seen with my clients, is this pressure that they put on themselves that it needs to be set up perfect, prepared, ready to launch, perfect website, perfect this, perfect that. I'm not saying I was like that. Perhaps I am, acknowledging that. But how do you help people kind of beat the procrastination monster that they put for themselves, basically, which leads them to productive procrastination? They're busy, they're burning themselves out, but things are not happening, and they start to get a little bit scared, leads to burnout. How do you help them to get to the moment that you had in that hotel at 7 a.m. when you realized, okay, this is not working for me? How do you get the clients to kind of see that for themselves?
I very much would use, it's a good question because I think procrastination shows up at all areas of your business. It can start at the beginning when you're just starting out and trying to get your first clients through the door, and your imposter syndrome is screaming at you. You're not experienced enough. You don't. There's other people ahead of you. Why would people choose you? How can you charge this? And then all those things that come with the first year of procrastinations or throughout as you evolve. And then there's another part of procrastination that I find. It's when, and I get this with my clients a lot, when they see success very fast, which is kind of like what I had, except I didn't procrastinate. I just kept moving. And I don't know if that was the best way forward either at the time, but they see success quite fast, and then the imposter syndrome of, how do I hold this, how do I hold the success? So one is like the procrastination of, how do I get it, and the other is, how do I, now that I have it, how do I manage it and hold it and keep moving forward? So what I always find is, and my clients will be the people who tell you this themselves, I am like a mirror. I am very much a mirror. Like, I use a lot of my talk therapy experience from my past career to really hold up a mirror And I challenge my clients, and I always give my clients a disclaimer on the very first calls that we have. And I always tell them, I am going to force you to think deeper about your business than you've ever thought about it before. You're going to look at it in a completely different way. We're going to go much deeper than the surface level you've got right now. And I am going to ask you challenging questions. And I'm not going to give you the answer. Even if I know it, I'm not going to give you the answer. And you're not meant to know the answer straight away. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. So it's okay not to know the answer. But there, by the time you do work this out with me and together, you will understand why I'm challenging you to think differently about it. And you will hate me a little bit, because there's going to be moments where you hate me for asking you the hard questions, or really reflecting back if your actions are aligning with what you say you want. And then I use that kind of mirroring system to them throughout as we're going through the coaching, which is why they evolve so at an accelerated pace and deeply. I don't really like teach things that are quick fix and apply this, but you don't know why you're applying it, but just do it. That's not my method. The way that I work with clients is I really help them to understand why they're making the changes in their business. So they see the click first, and then they apply it, and then we go into the practical side of it. So I have a strategy where I combine mindset and strategy together, so that it's like lifelong, like meaningful learnings that you're getting. You're getting practical strategies that you understand. Okay, when I want that result, I can apply this 10 times. I know exactly how to click this in, because I know why it works, and I know how to apply it now. And is the result I want? It's this is the method that I'm using. So I really do use it like a mirror, and I challenge my clients a lot through like a tough love situation of, I very much know when to hold space. And I think that comes from the 11-year career of really a lot of dealing with a lot of people who are going through quite emotional situations. And building a business is so emotional. There's no way to detach your personal emotions. It's hard not to take it personal when someone says no, or when you release an offer and somebody doesn't even ask about it, or you are about to say something and your views are like, you put hours of like into creating content, and then but you feel like nobody sees it. It's hard not to take that personal. But when you're detaching, it's the equivalent of asking somebody, are you sure that your actions are aligning fully with where you want to go? Or are you giving this your half your heart? Or are you creating half of the amount of content that you want? Or are you spending more time worrying about it and rewriting the same piece of content? Because you told me you spent 3 hours creating this content, but really what you meant to say was you spent 3 hours writing that same caption because you were worried that you were going to say it wrong. But what I always say to clients is, I can only refine what you do by putting it out there, testing it, and refining it. And that is the only way to learn what happens in business, what works and what doesn't. You have to be prepared to fail first if you want to succeed. You're going to fail 10 times more than you're going to succeed. So having these conversations with clients really I do work like a mirror system where I hold space for them, and they know I'll give them grace. I will listen to what they're going through, and we'll work through their mindset blocks. But then I will be like, okay, now pull up your socks because it's time to get the results you say you came here for. And people don't come to me when they just want to go slow. They come to me when they want the results at the end of working together, and they want to take action, and they've done the wallowing. They've done the, this is hard. And now they're like, okay, this is hard, but I'm okay to keep going. So I can hold it. And I think that that's so, so important, because procrastination is not a case of I don't want to do it. It's, I'm fearful if I do it, I'll do it wrong, and other people will see me do it wrong, and then I fail. And what if other people laugh? Or what if they say, yeah, I told you so? Or they think wrongly about me? Or what if I do it wrong and it goes out there? It's always about someone else's perception of you. And then you have to think, well, what's the perception if you don't do it? That you never tried? What perception do you give to yourself at that point? That you would rather have said to somebody, no, don't do it. You're right. What if you do fail? What if it doesn't work? Or you'd rather look back and say, at least I know I tried and I gave it everything I had. And then that's the question I always ask the clients. It's like, do you really feel you're giving this everything? Or do you feel you're watering down yourself, or you're half bothered to actually put the amount of effort in that this needs and this requires? And then we level off in those conversations.
I love the tough love approach. While I do consulting and I help with system implementation, software implementation, I do find myself a little bit in that approach, because people usually come to you either as a coach or a consultant or any similar um, career, I would even say, with a symptom. They don't come to you with the full problem, and you have to, dig deep, and you have to be able to kind of like scan and see the whole situation, so you can then see how do you get to the root of the problem. So I think that our approach in work is similar. You have to diagnose the situation. You have to know basically what's underlying there, but there are also some clients that don't need the solution. They just want validation, or they just want it from different reasons. Did you ever come to a situation where you had to say no to a client, and how did you kind of handle that? Because you are also qualifying the client while client is qualifying you to be their coach. How do you approach those situations?
Yeah, absolutely. With transparency. I think people will buy into what you have eventually through through the transparency of the conversation that you're having with somebody. I think it's really important to identify that you, like you said, you're also qualifying that person if they're the right fit for your offer, and how much of a disservice you can be doing to somebody by taking them on when they're not ready. And by not ready, I mean it could be financially. Perhaps they really don't have it, and they will put them into debt, and you don't want to be the reason of that. And I know that there's a lot of conversation around. 9 times out of 10, it's not money. Sometimes it is, and it's okay to acknowledge that and say to a person, "Come back when you're ready financially." Sometimes it's literally the stage of their life or their business. So if you're like business to business, sometimes what you're selling isn't the right fit for where they're at in their business. Maybe you're trying to sell an automation system to somebody who has no clients, and you're trying to push them and convince them. Now this is, even though, because it's something that they do want and eventually will need, but their priority problem right now is not going to be needing an automation system to handle 20 clients when they don't even have one, or they have one or two and then they don't know when the next one is going to come because they've got more time on their side and they need it. But someone's like, "Oh, this sounds incredible." And you're like, "Listen, at the stage of business that you're at, you will need this. Everybody will, but it's not going to be in your best interest to invest in this. This is where right now, I don't think this is the right fit for you." Unless they have loads and loads of money that they're ready to invest in every area from the beginning, which if you do, that's brilliant. But I think being very transparent about the readiness, and then it comes to the third one, which is your mindset around it. Does that person actually believe they can do it? Like, one thing I always say to clients is that I cannot convince you that you're good at what you do. What I do is support that you know you're good at what you do, and where the breakdown is communicating your skills, communicating how good you are, why somebody should choose you over somebody else, what you specialize in. I can't make you a better coach. I can't make you a better system specialist. I can't make you better at what you do. That's your job. Your job is to get better skills. Your job is to get the experience. My job is to help you really communicate the value that you're bringing to the table and why somebody should pay for your brain, not just for you to tick off tasks. How to become that go-to industry leader that you want to become, and boldly show up like that, so that you're like disruptive and people are attracted to that. You're the first person they think of. But I can't force you to be good at it. So when I always get the feedback from any potential client that inquires, that I'm very thorough in terms of the questions I ask. And that's on purpose, is because I need to know, firstly, what way do you actually think about your business? Do you think it's more like a hobby, something that you're just helping people? Are you money orientated? Because you need to be in business. You can't just lead with your heart at all times, because you have bills to pay and your heart doesn't pay for that, well, unless you sell it. But organ selling is a thing. But if you are trying to pay your bills, then the only way to do that is by being money orientated, knowing I'm doing this to create a good life for myself, good life for my family, a good life for my clients, because the more money I get and invest in my business, the bigger I can grow my programs, the more I can support them, the more I can build a team to support my clients, the bigger the impact I can create. So I really do feel like then it comes down to, again, their readiness. Like when people come to me and say, "I want to create a group program," but they're really struggling to sell their one-to-one offers, or they're really struggling to get done for you clients off the line. And then I take them back a step and I say, "Okay, well, Freedom Expansion Mastermind, which is for scaling, like creating scalable offers like group programs, introducing coaching to your offers, for example, that's for you in the later run. Right now, I really want to get you to a place where you have secure income from your core offer, which is going to be your one-to-one, your done for yous, making sure that you know how to sell them first, so that you have a baseline income that you're going off, and okay, when I want to fill this space, I know exactly the type of content to put out. Then we'll focus on the scalability piece. Because if you're already struggling to attract one to fill the 3 spaces you have, that's going to get even harder when it gets to 15 spaces you need to fill. So, or the passive offers that people want to have. Passive offers are sold off the brand you've already created, of people trusting that they don't need to be directly in your space, one to one with you, or for you to do it directly for them in order to see the result based on them trusting your methods that work. So I really do have those in-depth conversations. And one of the biggest questions I ask clients when I'm talking to them, when I'm pre-qualifying them for offers is, what are your goals? Where do you see your business? If you got all of the support that you say you need that is holding you back, where do you see yourself in 4 months? Where do you see yourself in 6 months? And I really want to see the vision they have for themselves, because again, I can't build your vision for you. I want you to come to me with this life that you want to build for yourself, the big vision, the one that you're afraid to say out loud, or the income level that you're afraid to say out loud, or the amount of clients you want to work with, or the type of clients you want to work with. They're like an advanced level. I need to know that you feel at some stage you have a capability of reaching that through the support that I have. So if I at any point feel that they're in any of these circumstances, you're not at that point yet, I'll be very transparent about that and what I feel will be your next best move, rather than just getting you in for the sake of getting money over the line. That's because it's not going to benefit you. It's not going to benefit me.
That fully makes sense. And I share the same approach, because not only it feels icky, if I can use that word, if somebody does that in sales, because I love sales, for example. I'm one of those rare people that, if I had to find a 9 to 5, I would work in sales. That would be my, like psychology is yours. That would be mine, basically, because I think sales is win-win. And if we look at it in a healthy way and we want to help somebody, we want to solve their problem, which entrepreneurship is, we are solving problems with our services, then it's easier to say yes or say no. And you also have boundaries and you know what works with your own program. And you can't help somebody who doesn't fit into that. And that's okay. There is somebody else for that person. Same as with my services. So what kind of also ties, I would say, are both kind of professions, is that we're selling services. And as any digital entrepreneur out there, what comes with that is cycles of feast and famine. And that's something that you definitely battle with. And that's, I think, the biggest thing that you solve for clients, because with your programs and how you structured your own offer, you are combating that in a way. So you're not just giving them, like you said, a quick fix, but you're fixing the whole situation of their approach, of their offer, of their content, of the sales aspect of it. And I would imagine that after this is established and they are in a routine or in a structure, or they know what they're doing and why they're doing that, that then those 5K, 6K months happen. So could you kind of guide us through that? How does that look like? And how do you do that?
In terms of structuring the offers?
Structuring the offers, or structuring basically how they decide to go to that point, and what happens when they have those months.
Oh, well, feast and famine is normal in business. People need to normalize that not everybody's making a sale every single day of the week. And I don't think enough people say that out loud, because it's not sexy to say that in business. But you're naturally going to have ebbs and flows. You're going to have times where you're like, oh my God, I'm on fire. And other times where you're like, things feel hard. Things feel silent. And so I think that that's really normal. I would say the first thing to look at is, are your offers set up where you're directly trading money for time? So for example, creating reoccurring revenue in your business isn't a magical thing. It's literally setting up that you're getting money in the later months for the work that you're going to do for somebody. So that can be in terms of looking at how your offer structure is and saying to yourself, am I only working on project based? So for example, am I only if you're done for you service provider, am I only getting paid for this project for the next month and then they leave? Or is there a way for me to structure my offers in a way that I can create a retainment offer on the back of that now that I work with them, how can I retain them? How can I keep them? Or if it's a case that the person is on a retainer with you, rather than running it month to month, lock them in for a 3-month situation, because the longer that person works with you, the longer they're going to be able to get bigger have bigger transformations, see bigger results, and you're also going to be able to lock in that recurring revenue that comes from being able to support somebody for longer periods of time. So perhaps that person's on a retainment contract where they pay you once a month for the support for those 3 months. So it's about really looking at, where am I trading my direct time for money? Are you only getting paid for the hours that you work, or for the project that you work on? Because working in an hourly or project based, even if I see people who create packages for their business, but the package is still based on hours. So you're still only going to get paid for the amount that you do, based on how many hours you can bank for that person. Even if it's a 20-hour contract, it's like, use as many hours as you want and I'll do everything that you need for those 20 hours. When you could have probably gotten that work done within 4 or 5 hours, because now you're really good at it, but now you have to work all those hours to show that you're banking them to get paid. Whereas if you set up your offers in a place of, where am I specializing? Where do people need me for longer periods of time? What transformation could that person reach if they worked with me today and for the next 4 months, for the next 6 months, for the next year? What am I selling? Because it comes down to, where are you building your offers off ticking boxes for somebody? I can do a full system build for you tomorrow, or I can build a full system build, and then at the end of this, I can offer you a way to maintain the system build for when automations mess up, for when you are unable to fix triggers that aren't working, when you want to upgrade it and you want to include new emails. I am there for you, because now I've built it, I know how it works. So when you need to, the very first thing you need to look at is your offer structure. Is it set up to only get paid in tradesmen, like tradesmanships, like money for time, direct work that you do for the direct money you're getting? Or can you set it up in a way that either you do have those offers, but you also have support and offers that maintain the client that you already have, or from the beginning, the original client that you sign is coming into a longer retainment package with you. So that's the number one thing I would say to start with.
I think that brings us back to the, hourly versus per value kind of discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure you're familiar with that. And I think it's a mindset game there, because, all of your core beliefs about money, your imposter syndrome, everything just like jumps out. Like you're opening a Pandora's box when you mentioned that to somebody who's a business owner, because if they didn't solve that with them, if they didn't kind of like go over that mindset, they kind of feel they're ripping off a client if they don't go through the hourly. And that's the only thing that you have that's scarce. And time, if time is your inventory, you're going to be stuck being a perpetual employee forever, basically. And I believe that people do that out of fear. So how do you kind of see the transfer, from that? How people price that into value pricing, and how can you pinpoint the value if you didn't do the project yet, you don't know the impact of it? How would you kind of like structure those?
Oh, absolutely. So everything I do with clients is like, I would never structure anything hourly with clients, even the clients who are on hourly and any of their current clients. I move them all. We create packages that move them all to package based, value based packages, because at the end of the day, you don't want to be the service provider or the coach or the done for you expert who is only paid to tick boxes in somebody's business because you got a job done. You want to be paid for your brain, basically. You want to be paid for the way you think about solving that problem, the solutions that you support, the ones that you say, when I come into your business, I'm going to apply this to your business. And then in the end, you're going to get the result that you want. Because if you just want a quick fix to get it done and you just need a box ticked, absolutely, there are people who will work hourly and want that, and they'll go into Fiverr, or they'll go to the hourly packages and say, hey, I need this task done really fast, can you do it? And that's fine. There are people, don't get me wrong, I have people in my business that do the same thing and they're okay with that. But when you want to start being paid for your skills and not be penalized for how good you are at something, but instead actually be valued and invested in, because your skill set is incredible, the way you think about solving that problem is incredible, the results you're getting at the end transformation that you support your clients to get is more than just if that was an hour or it was 10 hours. It's based on literally the way you think about solving that problem for your client, and they will buy into your mind. I call this authority value. You're selling your packages based on your authority value of your skills and experience, rather than just how many hours you can put in. Because at the end of the day, if I thought I could pay for a VIP 24 hours with somebody and have the exact same outcome at the end as if I worked with them for 6 months, I would absolutely pay for the VIP 24 hours. It would mean that I could get it faster. It would mean that I could get it in an expansive way. I could cover so much in so little time. If I thought I could get the same thing in a day that I could get in 6 months, I would instantly start to pay for it, because I'm not paying for the hours of the time. I'm paying for what I believe I'm going to get at the end. And when you start to want to focus on buyers and ideal clients who are not investing in, who don't see price, they don't look at price and associate it as a negative. They see it and associate it with quality. The higher your price is for the value that you're giving and the end result you support clients to get, the more likely they are to invest in you, because they're not thinking in the quick fix, the cheap option. They're thinking in, oh my God, that person's price is this, because it reflects what they're bringing to the table. It reflects their experience, their knowledge. And I don't have enough experience in this, or I don't have the time to get to that, or they specialize in a section of my business or my life that I don't understand enough. I need their experience because I can see they've worked with these clients, they've done it for themselves, they're walking the walk. And now they're no longer paying you to be a box ticker or to just get a job, a quick, cheap job done. They're actually investing in the result they're going to get because they have you as part of their team. Whether that's as a coach or as a service provider, like a done for you expert, or whatever capacity you're in, they're no longer investing in you to just tick a box or get something done. Now it's, oh my God, the person, I want your advice. Have you ever been through this? Have you ever experienced this before? How would you go about this? And then they're no longer just getting you to do the job. They're like considering you as a team member that they want as part of their growth and the end bigger result that they're really looking for.
I definitely agree. And I look at tasks in terms of their value, let's say. So if it's a $10 an hour job, we're just copying and pasting things. I don't look at it as connected to the person. It's connected to the task, right? And that same person can also have high ticket offers. They can have low ticket offers. They can also sell hourly. So this is also part of that mindset where people don't divide the task from themselves. So they feel, that they are being selfish if they price it higher, or they change it, etc. So it's your own core beliefs, your own core mindset kind of affecting that. And we are not our business. I think that's also a really crucial thing to kind of say. Definitely.
So important.
Yeah. And what I would add also to this is, I see it in terms of, if I have a broken pipe, I'm going to call a plumber, and I will not sit next to that person and be like, oh, you're going to use that tool? Why not that tool? Or are you going to use this? Why not this? I just literally want that fixed. I want my bathroom to function again, right? And I'm not going to meddle. That person is an expert. I'm paying for the years and the knowledge the person has, and I will not question the price because I need it fixed. So that's something that people don't understand, I think, about service offering also. When you do this for years, you start to see patterns. Basically, you can recognize, on the discovery call already, this job is going to take, this amount of time, or this is going to be an obstacle, or I need this from that person, or they're not a good fit because of this and that. And that comes with experience. So you're not just purchasing a coaching service or a consulting offer or anything like that. You are purchasing that person's perspective, knowledge, experience, and everything else that you sold for other clients, basically. Do you find that to be a challenge to explain to people when they're starting the program? How long does it take for them to kind of like get that to sink in?
I think it comes quite fast in terms of when we actually sit down. And one of the number one things I do with my clients is I always talk about, and I talk about a lot in my content, is your autopilot switch. When you're really good at what you do, you will automatically go into autopilot mode. So a client comes in with a problem and you just automatically know how to sit down and solve it. You'll just start. Even as a coach, you come to me with a problem, I'll instantly start to be calculating the steps you need to take to solve it. But that comes from the experience and the knowledge and the skills that you have. But when I actually ask clients, why do you do that? Can you map out your framework? Can you map out your process and the reasoning behind the steps that you take? They really struggle. And that's actually the moneymaker part that they miss in their content. It's not telling people the steps that you do inside of your offer. It's about helping them to understand why you take those steps, why this way of doing it instead of that way of doing it. Again, it's about the value of your perspective of why we should take these steps to get to the end result that I'll support you to get. So what I do with clients is we sit down and we map out their whole process with clients. So if you were to give that to a client through a portal, like a course that they do themselves, and they were starting from scratch, what would the number one thing be that you start to do with them, and why? Then what would be the next step and the next step? And as we build out their process, they start to really realize, they're like, oh my God, I didn't realize I do so much because I've been doing it so naturally. It comes, I'm almost pressing buttons without even realizing that I have automated these steps in my head and I know the next steps, but nobody else does, because this client doesn't know how to do this themselves. If they, like, I always talk to clients about identifying their 1% authority in front of their ideal client. People often think, oh, this is normal, this is really average, the things I'm doing everyone knows. But if they already knew, they would be doing them. So that already proves to you that you have at least 1% authority in front of your client. You already have 1% more knowledge than that person, minimum. So you already know that if you're selling to somebody, if you're thinking to yourself, well, this is real common knowledge, how can I sell this at that price? I want you to ask, you already need to recognize that you're not selling that program or that offer then to somebody who's your ideal client, because your ideal client wouldn't have the same knowledge you have. They wouldn't have the same systems that you have. They wouldn't have the same perspectives you have and the same process that you follow to get that end result. Otherwise, they would have already done it themselves. So when we're working with clients, we map out their signature process. Because when I say signature, it's that no two people do the exact same job the exact same way. Each person does it their own way, and that becomes your signature method. So we create their processes together, and by the time they see, oh my God, the amount of work I actually do with clients, the amount of impact I'm creating, I didn't even realize, they really have this introspective moment where they're like, God, I do so much and I didn't even realize how I get my clients to the result they get. I've just been plugging and playing from my mind and from my memory and from my skills. But when I map it out, God, I can really see that this is worth it. I can really see that they wouldn't get to that point without the support I give them at every step to get there. And so we really start to create that click internally before we even go to the external sales through their content or through their sales skills.
I think that's the crucial part, the aha moment that they have. And then basically they can, like, all the pieces of the puzzle start kind of sorting itself out a little bit. And I think that's basically your formula then to get to the creation of sales that basically sells directly through the content strategy. So how do you prepare for that moment? How do you then map out the content strategy? Because the goal is, if they present themselves correctly, if they talk to their target audience, the sales cycle is not going to be them every time the sales drops, from fear looking for leads and, accepting low ticket offers, accepting clients that drain them, accepting situations that are not aligned with them. Just I keep getting back to that hotel room at 7 a.m. I could imagine in that position, because I feel that. And then you get to burnout, and especially when your business actually takes off, you're afraid to say no also. So how do you help clients get to that point of sales cycle that their content strategy delivers for them?
It really begins at the foundational level where we identify the ideal client and their niche clarity. And when I say niche, I feel like people have a very wrong perception of what niching looks like. Niching is not enough to say, for example, I'm a system specialist who works with online business owners, or I'm a system specialist or automation specialist who works with mothers in business. That is only the surface level piece of picking the specialized service you want to become known for and the type of person you want to support. When I actually created a method called the client journey scale, which has been a game changer for helping clients to actually create specific content that generates sales for them, to the point where people are finding the profile, binging their content, and reaching out almost instantly. Like within 24 hours, they are inquiring and going through the sale within that 24 hours. And that's on purpose. That's not by fluke. We make that happen. And it's because your content does 90% of the selling, because from the beginning point, you already have a lot of clarity on, for example, the client journey scale will identify what level is your client at to need your offer. Are you trying to sell it to the wrong person? Are you selling it to a beginner level when it should be for the advanced level? Are you selling it to the advanced level when you should be selling it to a more beginner level stage? Because the problems they are experiencing at both levels are not the same. The client who has no clients and is stressed about where they're getting it is not the same as the client with 15 clients and doesn't know how to manage it, and feels like they're completely run off their feet by trying to manage the clients they have, never mind scale it. And you need to talk to the specific problem for the specific stage of client. So then that rolls out. I have this a rule, which is you're talking to one person that represents a bunch of people. So I always say to clients, your content can't say today, oh, you're in a loveless marriage, and if you're like, let's just say you're a life coach, you're in a loveless marriage that you want to get out of, and the next day you're like, you're single, you're chronically single, and you don't know what it's like to be in love, because now you're sending two different signals. So your ideal client is one person that represents a lot of people that will see resemblance and see themselves in certain situations. So when you identify, okay, what level is my client at, aka how much experience that they have in this, what are they experiencing on a day-to-day basis that I can specifically go into? What are the specific problems they're experiencing day to day? What I would call, like you said earlier, symptoms or pain points. These are what things that are going to describe what that person is experiencing. So if I have a cold, what are the symptoms of that cold? I have a runny nose, I have a black chest, I have a scratchy throat. You need to know what your client is experiencing on a day-to-day basis in order for them to connect automatically from the moment they come to your page. I mean, the second you find them or they find you and they look, they need to be able to say, they're speaking directly to me. And that just hooks them in initially. Then they start to binge it, and you give them that perspective shift of, you've been doing this, but really you need to be doing this. If you want to see that result, I understand why you've been trying this method, but this is the right one. My method that I teach you, my perspective, my signature framework, my offer, this is the one that's going to get you to where you want to go. So from the get go, the foundational level, if you're missing that clarity piece and you're using vague terms like, I help you make more sales, I help you get less overwhelmed, I help you love yourself more. Everybody wants more time, less overwhelmed, and to love themselves more in the world. So how does that look specifically to your ideal client? And so when you then integrate that clarity into the content strategy and you're using specific types of content specifically for the buyer's journey to specifically move your ideal client, every time they read it, they get closer to buying from you and they know why they should choose you and your offer, then your content is doing 90% of the selling, because every time they read it, it's helping them to go deeper into the understanding of what their problem really is, how you solve it, why your methods, and then finally, why you as a person. Why is it that your way of doing this and who you are and your vision and what you believe in is going to support that person that they're buying into to be able to create? So then your content does 90% of the selling. By the time they're in inquiring, it's usually the qualification piece where you're qualifying them and they're asking questions about more about the offer. And it's more so like a vibe check. Do I think we're the right fit? Okay, brilliant. Rather than convincing them in the sales conversation, they should already be convinced from your content.
So what I hear that you're saying is traditional sales used to be, here are the features of this phone, buy it. And what we are trying to do is basically put them in a perspective of the famous Apple commercial. Instead of, iPod has, I don't know, 1 GB, it said 1,500 songs in your pockets. It's shifting the perspective, and that's why they're so successful. And I think that what you're trying to say is put the client into a hero position, not yourself. I feel that a lot of people approach sales in a way, hi, buy from me, I do this, I'm great at this, these are my qualifications. And then basically they start talking about them, I know this, I know that, etc., etc. And the client doesn't even have the time for them to kind of like breathe and understand, okay, but how are you solving my problem? I like your certificates, that's all cool, but do you understand what I'm saying, basically, to you in a
Yeah,
way?
100%. Absolutely. I think a lot of people are scared because they go in thinking this is a money transaction, but they don't think, okay, if this person didn't go ahead with this offer, they're going to stay in the exact same problematic situation they're in. When actually, if they did buy into this offer, they are going to change their whole life. They're going to change their whole business, because I'm going to be able to help them progress towards the bigger dream that they have, the bigger transformation that they're looking for. So it's not really, what can you do for me? And again, it's moving away from the doer and what it's included and moving more towards how I'm going to impact you, how I'm going to create such a massive impact, fill the gaps of your knowledge, fill this piece of tools that you don't have in your business to get you to where you want to go, to get you that end result, to give you that lifestyle that you're really looking for, which is not going to happen if you stay as you are and don't make a move.
Correct. And I agree. And I would also add, it's the cost of not doing anything that you just emphasized, basically, that they don't take into consideration. Because Sometimes clients try to solve a $20,000 problem with a $200 budget, and they think it's going to be fixed basically, but it's not. And you already lost that money that you could have had if you fixed it. It's also about, I think, the service provider understanding what the limits are of their own service also. So I think working with a coach helps you not only establish the niche, the target audience, what you're offering, how your content is going to do that, but also where do you kind of stop and somebody else's service starts, because it's also a collaboration, in terms of those things. Do you have challenges with that, especially for your own service? When you say no to people, there's probably somebody else to those people that can help better than you can help. So how do you cope with those situations?
Do you mean how do I cope in terms of when they say no, or pinpointing them in the right
I
direction?
would kind of want an answer for both, if that makes sense, because those are two different kind of roads that we can take, and I'm wondering about both answers. Yeah.
To be honest, when somebody says no, like I always try, like naturally I preach and try to practice neutrality, but like I said at the beginning, it's very hard to remove yourself from not taking it personal. It's very hard because then you start to question, what did I say wrong? Did I not communicate it better? Should I have said something else? Should I have highlighted a different situation? I'm a natural human being with feelings. So as much as you want to be able to detach from it, it can be difficult. It can be difficult to not feel sad or angry or frustrated when somebody doesn't say yes or doesn't move forward. That's normal. The other side of that, though, is that as you grow a business, you're going to get more no's than yeses. You are going to naturally hear no more than you're going to hear yes, because you should be knocking on more doors than the doors are going to be opened. So you need to kind of get used to the reasoning behind why somebody does say no, and allowing somebody to have that space to tell you, giving you that feedback. I often find that people are like, oh no, oh okay, no problem, and then they just run off the call, or they run out of the situation, instead of like asking the person, can I ask you what's stopping you from moving forward? Can I ask you what's blocking you? What is it that you're unsure about, or what questions are coming up? Because you're going to really, one, understand if it was something to do with your sales conversation, where did you go wrong, or what could you have emphasized more, or what did you not say enough of? But two, it's also going to help you to really understand the mindset of that person. Is it financials? Is it that they don't have the commitment schedule? Is it that it's not the right fit for where they're at the time? Is it that they need to hyper focus in a different area that you're gonna highlight? There's so many things that are going to come up for that person, and it's when you understand their point of view, then it's much easier to not take it personal. But what I highly recommend is what I had to learn. I didn't do this naturally. I naturally had to pause, take a deep breath, and respond with, that's absolutely fine. Can I ask what is happening? Why are you not moving forward? To neutralize the space of the no, to stop myself from taking it personal, to stop it being, Nadine, they didn't go for Nadine. No, they didn't go for Nadine's offer. And I am not my offer. And my skills, my value, and my worth, we're worth the same before they said yes and before they said no. And it doesn't increase because they say yes, and it doesn't decrease because that person says no. So I needed to really understand, how can I pinpoint and understand from their point of view why they don't move forward, rather than why they're not choosing me. Because you are not your business. Your company exists outside of you. You are the runner of your business, but you are not your company. So when people say no to you, they're not rejecting you as the person. They're rejecting the brand, the offer, the thing that you're now the face of representing. So trying to create that detachment. In the other sense of when I'm redirecting it, that's where my transparency kicks in. And I really am, I'm very honest with somebody. I'm like, listen, based on all the things that you've said, I really do believe you need to do this first before this is going to benefit you. And by doing this first, you're going to be able to get to that place with me. But the first thing you need to do is this, and then I'll redirect them to where they need to go. And again, that's just full transparency. It doesn't make me lesser knowledgeable or lesser able to help them, but it makes me knowledgeable in knowing where where what qualifies them to be ready for my offer, and not doing them a disservice by trying to create a bespoke package that gives half the support just so they can say yes. And then in the end, we do each other a disservice because I can't provide the service that I want to give because they're not ready to take it yet.
That fully makes sense. And this boils into sales being a conversation. People see sales as something that's bad. It has a negative connotation, from what I've heard mostly with everybody that I'm in communication over this 7+ years, basically, that I've had a business. But any client or colleague or competitor or any business owner that I met that has an established business doesn't see it that way. And the only feedback that you have is from the customer. So if you don't ask, if you don't put ego aside and learn how to pause and ask that question, you're losing out on feedback, because you're gonna get no's. Like you said, we all get no's, and that's normal. Basically, that's the only way to know what is wrong with that. And it could just be a personal reason. Maybe they're not comfortable with moving forward, not just because there's something wrong with the service provider, but because they got scared a little bit and they understood this is a big commitment for me. And it's not the money, but it's also my time, because everything that we offer, especially as digital entrepreneurs, it's a collaborative effort. Any tailored service requires the client to participate, and they have to do certain moves. You are not buying a car and getting a key and driving it off. You're building a car with us. So that's the difference basically there. And I think how you summed it up kind of puts that into perspective, and it's going to be a really valid lesson basically for the listeners. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard. Don't get me wrong. Like, it doesn't come natural to think that way. You have to train your brain to detach from the outcomes of these things, because even in success, you have to detach. And that's even weirder to say to somebody, because normally you're like, celebrate your wins. And I am, I'm one of my clients' biggest cheerleaders. But at the same time, I don't want their value and how they perceive themselves, or their worth of their offer themselves or their skills, to be based on how many clients said yes or how many clients said no. And so it's a learned skill to train your brain to do that in business. Is it easy? Do I do it all the time? Absolutely not. Sometimes I get a no and I'm like, oh my God, I cannot believe this. And other times I get 5 yeses in the same day and I'm like, oh my God, this is incredible. And it's hard not to swing either way of the pendulum, which is like, oh my God, they said no. That means my business is falling apart. Or, oh my God, 5 people said yes. That means I'm on fire and I am the best thing since sliced bread. But at the same time, when you practice neutrality in both situations, it's incredible that you want to move forward, and I'm so excited. Or no problem at all. You don't. Right now is not the right time, or we're not the right fit. That's okay.
Yeah.
There's going to be that just open space for somebody else to take it that's more aligned or ready, or a better fit for you, and that's the way you need to view it. And I think it's every day. It's more reminding yourself of that rather than it being a natural way of thinking. It's not. But the more no's you get, the more used to no's you get, and the more yeses you get, the more you see yeses you become. So you start to filter that out the longer you're in business. But that doesn't come normal, doesn't come natural. And you definitely have to practice it and remind yourself of that every single day.
Well, I love to say that entrepreneurship is self-improvement on steroids. You have no choice. You have to self-improve, because otherwise nothing gets done and nothing moves, and you're stuck basically in that cycle. So I kind of want to put us back to software a little bit, as one of my last questions in this conversation. You mentioned that the contracts get sent themselves, that people sign it, that there's an automation in place. So my nerdy side has to ask you, which software are you using? How did you set that up? Could you share a little bit more about that? And what do you usually use in your business that you would recommend to not just your clients, but also to digital entrepreneurs in general related to software?
So my ride or die software. So to begin with, my communication is all on Slack, simply because me and my clients love a solid long voice note, and I absolutely love that it dictates it. So when it comes to client communication and client support, I do a lot of it on Slack, because I'm able to read their 5 minute long voice messages and actually not forget what they've said. I'm able to respond in good time, and I can read faster than I can listen to the 5 minutes. So it saves me a lot of time and saves them a lot of time too. So that's one thing for client support. When it comes to the back end business, my ride or dies are Thrivecart, probably one of the best investments I ever made. It was my first big investment when I started my group programs like 2.5 years ago, which was, I think it was a 400 or 500 euro investment at the time. And I remember feeling sick to my stomach, but one of the best investments I ever made, because it holds my courses, the portals. It does my transactions for money. It holds my onboarding systems. It integrates with my email marketing tools for like sending specific or giving access to specific things that people need when they're downloaded. It is a lifesaver in that regard. I can upload videos. I can upload downloadable workbooks, anything that they need. It's all in the portals that they get, because they get access to lifetime support to certain portals in Foundations to Fully Booked and Freedom Expansion Mastermind. So yeah, that's a lifesaver. And then the third one would be ClickUp that I use, which is what I use as my client management tool and my team management tools. So that's where I would host, once a person is automatically onboarded through the Thrivecart links, what they get is they are automatically then sent to my client management board. So then anything that they've inputted from the onboarding form is automatically put into the system, into the forms. It is, I get their contract dates, their start dates, I have their offboarding dates, so I know when to start conversations with them. I have an automation that alerts me to when their contracts are nearly finished. So I get emails to let me know, like start that conversation, to remind me, so I don't need to pay attention to it. It is absolutely game changing. If I had three main tools to tell you to put into your business, they would be my main top three for now.
How long did it take you to do all of that and prepare it for yourself?
The Thrivecart one I did, I'd say within an hour. It was just a case of setting up the contracts, and once the onboarding was done, I did that myself. However, the client management tools, I got them all done by somebody else. Like, I invested in that setup, because you don't want, there's certain automation triggers that you want to be created, or certain emails that you want to send at certain times. And ClickUp seems straightforward. Do this and then you do that, but I didn't want to do it wrong, and I wanted to have it prepared in the right way the first time, rather than messing it up and then clients saying, "No, I didn't receive that, and that never came through, and I never got that email. What are you talking about?" Like, I have my feedback forms automated at certain stages of the programs that needs to go out, and I'm like, "Why have you not sent me that back?" And they're like, "I never received it." That would have been on me. And like, I am a tech phobe. I absolutely hate tech. Anything I can do, anything I can put to somebody else for tech, I will. Because I honestly think that I must have done something wrong to the tech gods in a previous life, because anything that will mess up. And I have a track record with this, so I put my hands up to that. But yeah, anything that I can, I will give to somebody who's an expert in it, simply because I want it done right the first time. I'm a big believer in not needing to make the mistakes yourself first. So if I will get to the point where I'll invest in the system and I'll look at it and I'll be like, yeah, no, I'm going to give this to somebody else. And then if I need it done the right way the first time, I'll just invest in it, because I'd rather have it done right the first time than experience the mess ups of not getting it done the first time, and the collision crashes that happen after that. Contracts aren't signed in the right way. Clients are past their contract dates, but they're still in my programs, but I didn't realize that their contracts are finished, or I haven't had time to have the conversation with them, or the feedback forms are not sent on time. Then I'm back to manual tasks, and I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I back to running the business the same way I did when I didn't have clients, when I'm up to 24 clients at any one time, 25 clients? No, that's not happening, because that energy, I have to give it elsewhere now as I'm growing. And as I scale, I can't afford to give that energy to things like them tasks anymore. They just don't, they suck my energy out of me. So no, as soon as I can, I give that to somebody else who's way better than me.
I love how you described it basically. And you can also feel when you have a conversation with the service provider, are they, distressed a little bit? Do they seem like they're overworked, And you don't want a coach that looks stressed out. You want a coach that has things under control. So I think that it's not just your time, it's the mental load that gets basically removed from you, that you can then do other things. And I mean, your job is to solve problems. It's not to, battle tech. And I have a feeling it's always the machines kind of know. For example, when you need to print something out in those rare occasions in 2025, when you need to print it out, just the printer knows, right? So it's not just you, even though I, I am in that field. I think it's just printers in general. But I'm wondering, how did you decide to outsource that? How did you kind of like structure that conversation? How did you know that I definitely need to find someone? And how did you find people who do this? Basically, I'm wondering about that relationship.
Everything came from content, actually. Anybody who I invested in came from me seeing them talk as an expert in the thing I wanted to set up. So when I would be absorbing their content, they would be doing it for somebody else, and they'd be showing it, or they would be giving me ideas on things that I didn't even know I could automate. Because a lot of the time, when you're a tech phobe like me, you don't even know what the possibilities are,
Yeah.
and people just assume that you do know them, but really I don't. So even if I do have the money there to invest it, I don't know what I can invest in. So it's only when people bring that to light and show me what they specialize in and the possibilities that can be done from that's when. So yeah, mainly from consuming other people's content. I mean, like, okay, I think you know what you're talking about, and I think even beyond that, you know more than what I know, and you can open paths that I didn't even know existed. So yes, let's go.
So I think that you just confirmed that creating sales through content strategy works, not just by your method, but also by the way that you consume content and how you purchase. So I think that most of us do that. I know for sure when I see something pop up on my feed that can save me time, I'm going to reach out, I'm going to send a message, and I'm going to start a conversation there basically. And that's how we even found each other. And we started a conversation about the podcast. So I think that I hope that listeners understand how crucial this is, and that they're kind of ready to implement some of the tips and tricks you gave. And you gave so much value in this conversation. I personally want to rewatch it at least 3 or 4 times and make notes. So thank you so much for giving so much advice, value, concrete examples, and for being my third guest on the podcast and giving trust into this new experiment that I'm trying. And I hope you had fun, and that we're going to have much more touch points in the future where we can do some other conversations. Thank you so much for being a guest.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a great conversation.
Thank you. I really had fun. This wraps up today's conversation with Nadine about her coaching business and everything that she can provide as value related to sales through content strategy. I really hope that this episode sparked ideas for your business, and I'd love to hear about it. And I hope that you share your biggest takeaway in comments after you listen to this. And then what I want to say for the end is, remember, the right systems don't just organize your business, they create the freedom you started for your business, that they create the freedom of why you started your business in the first place. Until the next time, experiment, learn, and grow. Thank you so much. If you enjoy conversations like this, you'll love the Proprium Digital Network. It's a community where digital service founders get tools, templates, weekly insights, and behind the scenes guidance on building systems the right way. If you want to stop building systems alone and start building with support, join us at proprium.agency.